Here's a segment from a recent Gun Talk radio episode. You can listen to all the Gun Talk radio podcasts however you tune in, or check out guntalk.com for more. There's an awful lot of interest in the latest thing, of course, is the ATF's ruling on stabilizing braces for pistols, where they just made up that now it was legal and now it's not legal. Well, we've been through this before pretty recently with the whole bump stock thing. And there's a fellow who's got a gun store down in Texas who said, I think we probably need to challenge that. We're joined by Michael Cargill from Central Texas Gun Works. Mike, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, sir. Thank you for having me on.
You bet. Now, I read somewhere they said like you were either the first black gun store owner in Texas. Could that possibly be right?
No, the longest running black-owned gun store.
There you go. Okay, I knew it was something like that. Okay, cool. So where are you located?
I'm in Austin, Texas.
Okay.
That sea of the blue dot in the Red Sea.
I know only too well. Yes, I get down there pretty often. So, all right. So you looked at this whole bump stock ban. ATF says it was legal before and now it's not legal. And everybody's got to turn them in. And you said, somebody ought to do something about that. I don't know what the thought process is that led you to that. You want to explain?
Yeah. So basically, what happened was allegedly in Las Vegas, someone used a bump stock to commit a crime, a shooting, and right. So the Trump administration decided that they were going to allow the ATF to ban bump stocks. And so, speed forward to 2019, the ban goes into effect, where if you owned a bump stock, that you would have to turn it in to the ATF or destroy the bump stock. It was not going to be added to the NFA list because it's really not a firearm, it's a part. And so they just outright banned it. If you owned it, you're a felon unless you turned it in or destroyed. And I decided to challenge that and take it to court. And it was Michael Cargill versus the Department of Justice and Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. I took them to federal court, sued them. And the first case, I lost that. The first court, I lost that case. Mm-hmm. We appealed the case to the Fifth Circuit in New Orleans, and it was heard in front of a 3-judge panel. Now, the Fifth Circuit is comprised of majority Republican-appointed judges, but there are about 5 judges on this 17-judge panel, and we actually pulled 3 Democratic appointed judges, and there are 5 of them, 5 Democratic appointed on the panel.
Right.
So that 3-judge panel, we lost that case, and so I appealed it again, and then it was heard in front of the entire court. This particular time, it was heard in front of 15 judges. Yeah, 15 judges, and mm-hmm. So we won this case 13-3, and they sided in my favor. They agreed that. 1, a bump stock is not a machine gun. The definition of machine gun is when you pull the trigger and you hold the trigger, it shoots more than 1 round, that's a machine gun. Right. They said a semi-automatic is each pull of the trigger, 1 round fires, that's a semi-automatic. And then they also agreed that, hey, ATF can't create or write law. Congress does that. Congress has to write a bill. It goes, both houses. It goes to the president. The president signs it. Then it becomes law. That's how laws are made. Not because the federal agency actually creates law. Not the EPA. Not OSHA. Not CDC. Right. No matter what, those agencies don't create law. And so they agree with me, and we won this case in court. And I wanted to frame this case not about not particularly a gun case, but I wanted this case to fit any agency within our federal government instead of challenging it on the Second Amendment stance.
Exactly. I was going to explain because this really is not a Second Amendment case. It's actually, I'm almost afraid to say it this way, but it's actually larger than that because it challenges federal agencies' ability to make law when no one who has ever been voted for is at the agency, and they do it regularly. I mean, it's called the Chevron deference, and there are a lot of things going on here. But the recent was last year EPA case out of the Supreme Court challenged that, and then now your case comes along and says, yeah, really, when you look at it, the way the Constitution is written, only Congress can make laws, and you agencies can't make laws. and you certainly can't make the laws and enforce the same laws. That's kind of circular deal. So where are we now? What happens to your case?
So now we won this case in the Fifth Circuit in New Orleans, which means that for Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi, bump stocks can become legal. Now, they have to give the government time to appeal this case to the Supreme Court. And so they have to give them at least until February 28th. If the government does not appeal, then the court's going to release their findings and say, okay, it goes back down to the lower court. And then that means Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi gets their bump stocks back. And also the ATF can't create a right law in Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi. And eventually, this case will eventually end up in the hands of the Supreme Court again.
Right. We were just talking with Clark Aposhian, who has a similar lawsuit to yours, with the help of the same organization in the 10th Circuit, and they're supposed to get a decision on that tomorrow, I think it is, to move it forward. So all of this is coordinated, so eventually the plan is to get it back up to the Supreme Court. But, there's no guarantee, Mike, that the government actually appeals your case to the Supreme Court. They may just say, well, let's just let that sit there because it doesn't affect the whole country, and we don't want to take a chance at having a bad precedent or having our bump stock ban overturned.
And then what you're going to have is you have the state of Texas, the Texas Attorney General filed a lawsuit against the ATF for the brace ban. They're using the Cargill the Garland case as case law to say, hey, the Fifth Circuit has already ruled on this. ATF can't create a right law. So then all these cases that are being filed in Texas in the Fifth Circuit, that would mean that if this case does not go to Supreme Court, it just sits here for a while. That means that you can't ban our braces, our AR-15 or AR pistol braces in Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and then you also won't be able to create law. We also get our bump stocks back in Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi. So eventually, these cases are going to have to go to the Supreme Court because they're going to use that Cargill v. Garland case as case law because that case has won in the Fifth Circuit.
You sound like a guy that people don't really want to cross. You kind of got your back up on this, and you wouldn't let go of it. Tell me about Michael Cargill.
So, yeah, I own the gun store. I teach license to carry handgun courses. I'm an 07 FFL dealer with the SOT. I teach private security, whether it's level 2, level 3, armed security, personal protection security. I'm also a first responder instructor teaching EMS paramedics how to conceal carry a firearm and defend themselves while they're working as paramedics and firefighters. And so we do quite a bit when it comes to the gun community. And I've been doing this for quite a while, an instructor for quite a while. And so this is this is personal for me. When an agency within the federal government decides that they're going to stand on the bodies of the American people, it's my job to stand up and put my foot on their throat and tell them they're not going to do it. And so this is not the only case that we filed against the ATF. I have another case that I filed against the ATF for all federal firearms licensed dealers. Currently, right now, the ATF says that, hey, they come and inspect you and they find any paperwork errors with your federal firearms license, they can shut you down and revoke your license. So because I have filed a lawsuit against them and I'm beating them in court, I figured that they're probably going to eventually come back after me. So to circumvent them, I decided to file a lawsuit against them in federal court to say, hey, you can't, walk into my gun store, find some simple little paperwork error, and then try to shut me down or revoke my license. So I'm suing them in federal court for all federal firearms license dealers around the country to say, hey, when a customer walks into the gun store and fills out that little box that says county, and instead they put country in that box, I shouldn't get shut down for that simple little error.
And they used to do a deal where they would come in and say, okay, that's an error. You just need to get that corrected. And then they would go on. Now they're getting instruction through the ATF that says, oh, if you find that is a willful violation, and our goal is to shut down as many gun stores as we can.
That's correct. And that's not how the law was written. The law, it was more, along the lines of if you're transferring a firearm to a prohibited person, then you're committing the crime. And by someone putting a little small error because they didn't dot an I or cross the T, That's not handing over or transferring a firearm to a prohibited person.
No, exactly right. And it's all part of the things that are going on at ATF that we need to know more about. We need some more congressional scrutiny on that. And they've got a bunch of secret documents, secret papers they don't even let the gun stores know about or the manufacturers know about of how they're enforcing it and what they're determining to be violations of the law. It's one of those deals, well, just do it and then we'll let you know if you broke the law. That's not the way it's supposed to work in America.
That's right.
Michael, thank you so much for what you're doing and for your lawsuit. If you would, please keep us posted, and as this thing progresses, we'll get you back on, okay?
Absolutely. More guns equals less crime. Go out there and buy yourself a gun.
Oh, man, I love that. That is Michael Cargill. The case, of course, is Cargill because that's his name.